All right, welcome back to another exciting edition of How Do I Do This Anyways? This time a snowflake edition. You guys are going to make a nice little snowflake type thing. Pretty neat. Could be useful for you. I don't know how. This is where we're going to use several tools. We're going to use a circular pattern tool. We are going to use a rectangular pattern tool. We're going to use a mirror tool. We are also going to be making work planes and stuff like that through points and playing with all kinds of other work planes. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go File, New, and make sure that if you're just looking at this, you start clicking on the metric and you get into a standard millimeter IPT. We're going to start a 2D sketch and we're going to place this on the plane so that way we're looking down on it from the top. Okay. And make sure your view cube is aligned in this fashion so that way this way is pointing up. And I'm going to grab my polygon tool. So you get to that by clicking the down arrow under your rectangle, and that'll bring up your polygon. Make sure it says 6 sides because, hey, a snowflake has 6 sides. And I'm going to click when I have my coincidence constraint in the middle, and I'm just going to click it out and drag. And now I'm going to hit escape or done to say I'm done with that tool. Now, this little snowflake, I want to make sure I have a flat end on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and click my horizontal constraint tool right here. And I'm going to click that edge, and that makes sure that that edge always maintains horizontal orientation relative to that plane. Yeah, can't speak. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and finish the sketch because, oh, wait, I'm not. I'm going to right click and I'm going to edit that sketch because I need to make sure it's the size I think that it is. The dimensions I gave you was that your whole thing could be 75 millimeters across. That means that this can't be that big. So I'm going to change this down to 15 millimeters. And that shrunk it way down. Glad I did that now. All right, so now my sketch is done. I want to go ahead and extrude this now. And I want to extrude this symmetrically, meaning both directions on top of and below that original horizontal plane in the middle. I'm just going to make it 12 millimeters to give myself a little bit of extra space. Click OK. Now we have this thing right here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put a chamfer on the side of this because I want all edges to either have chamfers or to have fillets, and snowflakes are hexagonal, so they don't have fillets. Nice and angular sides. So I'm going to put those all on it. I just went ahead and put them on all sides. And now I'm going to play with the size to make sure it's a size I want it to be. So 3, that looks a little goofy. 1, looks a little goofy again. Maybe 2 is that happy medium. Make it whatever size you feel like and it work with your design. All right, cool. 2 millimeters it is. Now, you notice that I'm upside down right now. Make sure you are right side up when you're doing this. So now what we're going to do here is we are going to make our first arm going out the top. Okay, so I'm going to come back to this one and I'm going to start a 2D sketch on the top of it. I'm going to project my geometry, which you can just project the cut edges and it pops up like that. And now I'm going to go back to my polygon tool, clicking the polygon tool, making sure I still have 6 sides. And you have to decide, do you want a flat edge at the top or do you want a pointy edge? I kind of like the idea of the pointy edge at the top. Okay, so I'm going to put it that way. Now, since it made a coincidence constraint on that, that means that if I make this whole thing thicker, like wider, increase the space from here to here, that size of the hexagon will follow that. So that might be an advantage to you or it might not, okay? So if you want it to be larger and to extend up on top of here, don't let it make a green dot, but do not extend these sides over this side because then your sides are going to be kind of combining on it, the sides, and it's just going to look weird. Click done. All right, so now I'm going to hit extrude. Well, first off, cancel, getting ahead of myself. Click finish sketch. Come over here to your 3D model tab, click extrude. Click the surface you want to or the shape that you want to extrude and tell it how far you want to extrude it. I want to go 30 millimeters. Cool. That looks great. Now, I want to put some chamfers at the top of that again. So grab my chamfer tool and just clicking around all the sides, all of them. And again, playing with the size of it, I think that 2 millimeters is a bit big. 1 is not big enough. 1.5, that'll work for me. Click apply, click cancel to close the tool. All right, now this is where it's going to get a little bit interesting because we need a work plane to build our arms that are coming out of here on the sides. We need a work plane that's in the center. Okay, so we're going to make that work plane that's in the center, and we're going to use one of the planes that exists. So we have to come over here, click the little plus sign next to the origin in order to see what work planes are available. And you see how that YZ work plane is right where we want it to be? I'm going to right click and I'm going to click a new sketch on that. And now it's opened it up to give me a new sketch there. Now, I want to make sure that I'm projecting some geometry into that sketch. So I clicked project geometry. Well, it projected the cut edges accidentally, but I want to make sure that I have this edge right here and also that edge going along there in order to make sure that that's involved in my sketch. Okay. Now, grab your line tool and you want to make sure that you are putting your line on that geometry you just projected there in the middle. That is on your plane. Okay. Now I'm going to stretch this thing out and you see how it says 7.0 or 7.5? I want that to say 15. Okay, I'm going to dimension this line right now, and I'm going to let the angle fly for now. Okay, and now I'm going to hit escape. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to dimension it from this line to this line. Cancel. Did it set a dimension on there? Try 45. There we go. Cool. I don't know what I clicked on before, but that's working. You can set that to be whatever angle you want it to be. Now I'm also going to go ahead and dimension this thing from here, this line, up to that point. And I'm going to tell that to be 10 millimeters at this point. So that's what I've got right now. The other very important thing is you need to put a point at the end. Okay? And the reason we need that point at the end is because we need to put a hexagon here that'll extrude down here. Okay, the hexagon can't be parallel to this face. It needs to be so that way it'll be going straight down along that angle. So to do that, we're going to make a work plane. Finish that sketch, and now I'm going to grab my plane tool. I'm going to click the downward arrow, and we're going to say parallel to plane through point. Okay, so I want it to be parallel to this plane because that's going to be pretty close. And then I got that point right there. So I know that this should be a 45-degree angle, and that is 45. Okay, there are other ways to do this, but that's an easy way for me. I could have done normal to curve at point. That would work just fine. In fact, let's do that. That's my curve. That's my point. There we go. Now, if I change this angle, like if I edit that, it should change the overall thing, but I don't know if it changed enough or if it just didn't catch up. Either way, now what we're going to do is we have our work plane here. Now we're going to start a sketch on that work plane. And I want to make sure that my hexagon does not go beyond this edge and this edge on there. So I'm going to go ahead and project that geometry for here and here. Okay. Now I'm going to grab my hexagon tool again. I'm going to find my point, and I'm going to click. I'm going to drag out my hexagon. Okay. Now, I want to go ahead and click done here. And I want to make sure that I have, since I want this point to always be up there at the top, It should have made a constraint already. I don't know if it did or not, but I'm going to make a perpendicular constraint between those two to make sure that this is always perpendicular to that. Okay, now I'm going to finish that. And now I'm going to just go ahead and extrude that back that way. But only I don't want it to just be casually any dimension. I want it to always go to the next. And so that means that from here to whatever that distance is, it's always going to extrude an object for that. Okay. Now I want to clean this up a little. So I'm going to turn this work plane, turn the visibility off on it by right clicking on the work plane. But you can see the work plane still exists here. I can turn the visibility back on over here if I felt like it. Grab my chamfer tool again. And I'm going to chamfer these edges. Wow, that looks really large. I'm going to reduce that so it doesn't look as goofy while we're making this thing. All right. That looks okay. I mean, you could reduce it if you'd like, but I'm just going to click apply and then cancel to close out that tool. So that's what I've got so far. Now what I want to make sure that I do is I want to repeat this here, and then I want to copy it to the other side. Okay, so to repeat that, all I'm going to do is grab my rectangular pattern tool, and I'm going to select the features that I want to copy. So you should see these light up in the browser over here. If you're having problems actually getting them to light up from selecting them over here, you can come over to the browser and hold Control and select all of the things you want copied. Now, the next part is the direction. You're going to tell it what direction you want to pattern it in. And so to do that, you want to click on a line that's running parallel to the direction you want. So you can also click this and flip the direction, but right now I think that's looking good. I want 2 instances of this. If I go ahead and increase it, I'll get another copy that's way up there. I just want to have 2, okay? With my geometry, that's the way it's going to work best. With whatever you're doing, you might want to increase the distance between, you might want to decrease the distance between. I'm going to leave it at 10 millimeters because that's the space that I put this, okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And you can see that there's this second little filament thingy there. Now, where is it? Is that the work plane I want? Yes, that's the work plane I want. I'm going to turn the visibility on this work plane because I want that bisecting work plane, or if I felt like it, turn that off. I can make a work plane now that's mid-plane between 2 planes. Select there. Select there. Control Z didn't set correctly. Mid-plane between 2 planes. I have to select that surface, and then I can select that surface, and I get my mid-plane. You can use that tool to make mid-planes between any 2 surfaces you want. Now, I'm going to go ahead and grab my mirror tool, and I'm going to select the features. You see how if I select this one, it only selects that one, but if I go to this one, it gets both of them. You want to select both of them, and you want to make sure that the extrusions and chamfers in the pattern are lit up over here in the browser. Then you want to grab the mirror plane, click there, and then select the plane you want to mirror it across. And what you should see is little wireframes of what it's going to create. So you want to then click OK to create those. All right. Now, the next part is we need to circular pattern this all the way around. So to do that, we need an axis to circular pattern it around. I know that there should be an axis right there, so let's find it. Z, is that it? Yep. I'm going to turn the visibility on my y-axis. So that way I can come over here and now I can just grab my circular pattern tool. And I want these, and I want that, and I want my chamfers. I want it all to circular pattern. And I want it to circular pattern. Click here to select your rotation axis. I want it going around that axis. You see that preview? You can change your number of instances. You can change how far the thing rotates around. I'm going to stick with 6 because I've got 6 sides. And it's just going to create that nice regular pattern all the way around. So there we go. Now what I can do First off, I'm going to turn the visibility off on my midplane. I'm going to go ahead and start a sketch right here and place a text box. Just going to kind of try and center it on that and type in the year because I'm sentimental like that. Click OK. And you can play with hit escape to click and drag it around to wherever you feel like. That'll do. And then finish your sketch and emboss it. Emboss your text into the surface so that way it actually cuts into it instead of trying to draw out. If it cuts into it, it'll be a better feature. It'll last longer for you. And then finally, I want to make a Christmas ornament. So I'm going to go ahead and start a sketch right there. And I want to put a circle here to put a string through. So have it constrain on that point. And I'm going to type 2 because I think a 2mm hole will be perfect. I'm going to finish that. I'm going to go ahead and now extrude this. I want it to be a cut, and I want it to be not through all. If you do through all, it'll cut all the way out through the outside. I want to go 2, and then I'm going to tell it what to cut to. I always want it to cut to that surface. Click OK. Now, this hole is going to be actually sharp, and it might actually be a little difficult to get a string through or a wire through. So I'm going to put a fillet on the outside. Select there, select there, and that looks goofy. So I'm going to put like a 0.5mm fillet there. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, life is good. So now I'm done. File, save your work, and put it in your project folder. Don't forget to export an STL. And as always, if you have questions, let me know. Take care.